Slow play is more than too many practice swings. The causes are assorted. People fixate on getting the correct yardage. Another thing we may have learned from watching the pros.
Hello and welcome to the second round of the
Pre-shot
tournament.
routines include more than
Let's get down to the
practice
tee.
swings. Sometimes there are various waggles, restless foot positioning, and breathing exercises that resemble a Lamaze class. The process keeps getting longer, even though almost everyone agrees that average golfers would all play better if they played faster. But most of us can't seem to pick up the pace.
Pretty deep rough here. I'm not going
In
to
fact,
sugarcoat it.
a surprising amount of research has been conducted in an effort to understand the epidemic of slow play. And there are now numerous theories about how to cure it. The easiest thing to do is watch faster players, like our recreational brethren in the United Kingdom, and see what they do differently. For example, they assess their upcoming shot as others in the group are assessing theirs. So they have calculated the distance, picked the club, and are ready to go within 15 seconds of the last shot struck. They leave their cell phones in the car. The anti-phone diatribe bears repeating. They start reading a putt as soon as they reach the green. Too many slow players don't even look at their putt until it is their turn. Unless you're putting first, there's ample time to see your putt's line as others are putting. Then, when it's your turn, you're almost ready to go. They don't mark lagged putts, especially if it is relatively short.
Nice.
You should just go ahead and putt out. They walk, which, contrary to the general wisdom, is usually faster. But if they
Everyone
do take
ends
a
up
cart,
in
they
the
aren't afraid to
beach
hustle to
from
where
time
a
to
partner has
time.
driven the cart. Driving the cart back and forth to pick up players adds time to a round. Now, it's also true that slow play is not entirely the fault of the player. Slow golfers are only half the equation when it comes to slow play. Bill Yates, the founder of Pace Manager Systems, a California company that consults with hundreds of golf courses about speeding play, says, the other half is the management of the golf course. The number one thing those running golf courses can do,
Even par
Yates
after the
said,
first hole,
is space
and
out
14
tee
under
time
for the
so
tournament.
the course won't be overcrowded. People often end up
Okay, it's
waiting
time
not
to
because
send this
golfers are
ball on
playing
its
slowly,
way.
but for the same reason traffic bogs down at rush hour. The golf courses can't handle the increased flow. Golf course owners may say that they make more money by having more golfers tee off more often, but Yates countered that an overburdened course keeps players waiting and leaving unhappy, perhaps not to return to that course again. It's better business to provide a smooth experience around the golf course, Yates says. His advice, however, can become more complicated. For example,
Nice
he says
approach.
that blind landing
All right,
areas
14
and high
feet
rough
to the
on
hole.
the inside of a dogleg are documented pace of play killers because they lead to waves of golfers looking for errant shots. Also, modern ball and club technology has led to longer golf courses, and longer holes take longer to play. Many resorts and high-priced private clubs have also added prodigious length to their designs. It's become a yardage arms race. The once rare 7,000-yard course is now 7,500 yards, and 8,000 yards is coming to a
Okay, 1
resort
under for the
near
round. And
you. Magazines
13
that
over
rate
for
golf
the
courses
tournament.
fuel the madness by recognizing the behemoths as something special.
Okay, here we
Here's the worst
go.
part. You know what happens when you add tee boxes that stretch the holes to
Great contact. Nice swing. Pretty deep stuff here. Give it a good hack. Let's put it in the right direction.
We get lost all the time. A good part for camping, such as bridge, we do get back and holes take longer to play. Many resorts and high-priced private clubs have also added prodigious length to their designs. It's become a yardage arms race. The once rare 7,000-yard course is now 7,500 yards, and 8,000 yards is coming to a resort near you. Magazines that rate golf courses fuel the madness by recognizing the behemoths as something special. And here's the worst part. You know what happens when you add tee boxes that stretch the holes to outrageous distances?
This is for birdie.
Scores of people want to play from them. They are supposed to be championship tees for elite players, but average and below average golfers flock to them in some kind of rite of passage, and that slows play more than any other thing recreational golfers do. Several years ago, Pete Dye, the mad scientist of golf architecture, was showing me around one of his new layouts. When I noticed that the most challenging tees, the ones farthest from the holes, were often obscured by landscaping, trees, or other natural terrain elements, Dye smiled mischievously and said, "That's to hide them from the dinglings who don't belong there." "We love our pro tees," Dye said, "but too many non-pros march back there. Then they wonder why they're not having fun." If you play golf just about anywhere in the United
And that'll
States,
keep you at 1 under
you know
for the
the blight of
round,
the game is the
and
groups
13
of men,
over for
and
the
it is
tournament.
almost universally men playing from back
All right,
tees
let's
that
haul
are
off
way beyond
and
their
just
skill level.
smash this
They're
next
called
drive.
the tournament tees. Employees at golf courses call them the testosterone tees. People who insist on playing the most challenging tees always have a reason. "I want to see the whole course. I want my money's worth. Playing from the back is the only way to compare myself to pro golfers. It's the only way to get better." These are well-intentioned excuses
Okay,
or
you're kind of
selfish
in
ones.
some deep
The
stuff.
real
This is
reason
the danger
people
zone.
keep playing from the wrong tees is that charming little golf defense mechanism I mentioned earlier, the one that keeps us playing at all. We, as golfers, think we are far better than we actually are. It's the only way to survive the truth of this merciless game. So we may acknowledge that studies have shown that the average male golfer hits his drive less than 210 yards. But thank goodness most of us aren't that average. A typical drive by a woman measures in the 125 to 140 yard range. Women, the same studies confirm, are less likely to overestimate that distance when asked. So, it is some combination of ego, peer pressure, and self-deluding miscalculation that keeps people marching farther and farther away to start each hole, and again, listing a gaudy set of tees on the scorecard that measure to 7,700 yards is like wheeling the dessert tray past a table of 12-year-olds. "There's another factor," said Joe Hallett, the former director of the PGA Center for Golf Learning and Performance in Port St. Lucie,
Okay, this
Florida.
one to save par.
New technology does make the ball go farther, and that gets in people's heads. But if you go to the back tees hole after hole, you have to try to hit a home run every time. And with that mindset, you're going to hit some foul balls. Even when you do hit it straight, you'll probably have a hybrid in your hand every hole. What fun is that? And if you don't hit it straight and long, you'll be chipping out of the rough, fronting the fairway, or from the woods on the left or right, and then you'll still have a hybrid or a long iron to the green.
Nicely done for the par.
Obviously, it's also simple logic that scores
And that'll
rise
keep you
as
at
holes
1 under for
lengthen.
the round.
More
And
strokes
13
means more
over
time
for
on
the
each
tournament.
hole, backing up the entire course.
All right, let's let her
Golf
rip.
course designers have confronted this predicament by installing 5 or 6 sets of tees, with lengths beginning at 3,500 yards. Often, they have cleverly eliminated the traditional blue, white, red, back, center, front tee designations and substituted colors and shades that are not easily identified or stigmatized. If the tees are black, oak, granite, orange, and green, the only reasonable way to choose what tees to play is to ask for help in the pro shop or from the starter. Women aren't automatically sent to the red ladies' tees. Men might be persuaded to move
Sweet.
forward a bit. When Denny Perry was building the Harbor Rocks Golf Club in the lush hills of Virginia's Shenandoah Valley in 2002, he installed huge tee boxes for 6 sets of tees that play from 3,800 to 7,200 yards. The Harbor Rocks Pro Shop devised a chart to guide people. If you're a 26 to 30 handicap, head to the yellow tees, which play about 4,770 yards. If you're a 19 to 25, head to the orange, 5,400 yards, and so on. You need permission from the Pro Shop to play the back tees, 7,151 yards. I've played Harbor Rocks, and there are many forced carries and water hazards off the tee. Their advice was a godsend. Sometimes we'll have a group struggling and playing slow, and we'll suggest they move up a set of tees, Perry said. A lot of them will come into the Pro Shop afterward and thank us. One guy said, "I was ready to give up golf. Then I started having fun." One problem with using handicaps to choose the appropriate tee is that fewer than a quarter of all golfers have one. So golf course architects, teaching pros, and recently the USGA and the PGA of America have proposed formulas instead.
And that'll keep you
They
at
work.
1 under for the round.
But will golfers accept
And
the
13
number they
over
are
for the
assigned?
tournament.
One formula has a golfer
6-hole
estimate the
coming up.
average distance that his or her 5-iron shot will travel. An honest average, not the ultimate 5-iron. And then multiply that number by 36. If golfers were realistic, that would put most in the 5,300 to 6,300 yard range. Beginners, younger players, some seniors, and some women would play from tees more forward and be challenged, and the rare golfer, usually
Heading
with a
towards the
handicap
beach
in the
here,
low single
not the
digits,
good kind.
would be venturing back. Another way to look at it: assess the court's scorecard beforehand and find what looks like a typical par 4, not the longest and not the shortest. From what tee will you be left with no more than a 7-iron to the green if you hit your driver its average distance? And if you seem to fall between 2 sets of tees and can't decide, since many golf courses don't do a good enough job advising people on this choice, you should play the shorter of the 2 tee offerings. The USGA and PGA of America's Tee It
That was a bit
Forward
underwhelming,
initiative
but
includes a
you're out of
chart
the
for
sand, so
picking the
good
right
stuff.
tees. It is based on how far you hit your driver on average. Again, honesty and modesty are key. Drive of 275 yards. Play from tees measuring 6,700 to 6,900 yards. Drive of 250 yards. Play from 6,200 to 6,400 yards. Drive of 225 yards. Play from 5,800 to 6,000 yards. Drive of 200 yards. Play from 5,200 to 5,400
Okay,
yards.
that performance is going to
Drive
put
of
you up to
175
even
yards.
par.
Play
And
from
14 under for the
4,400
tournament.
to 4,600
Okay,
yards.
let's put this in the fairway.
Drive of 150 yards. Play from 3,500 to 3,700 yards. Drive of 125 yards. Play from 2,800 to 3,000 yards. If this chart were used properly, most male golfers would be playing from tees that measure about 5,600 yards. Most
Nice
women would be
swing.
playing from tees that measure less than 3,700 yards. There is one last rule of thumb that applies well to this situation, and it is elementary and easy to remember, too. If you aren't consistently breaking 90, move up 1 tee box until you are. When I played golf with Guy in 2008, he didn't ask which tees I wanted to play, but immediately walked to a set that would play about 6,000 yards. Truthfully, I promise, that's a little short for me using most measures. Di occasionally took me back to the tournament tees for a gander. They were fearsome. Di, 82 years old at the time, shot an 81. I was a few strokes back. It was a tough, tricky course that did not need length to give me fits. Walking off that 18th green, he still had that mischievous grin. Playing from the wrong tees and the slow play it can cause is also a culprit of a little discussed dark side issue for golf. I've taken to calling it golf rage. I have a Google alert set for the word golf, and it informs me about all kinds of things. But nothing in my golf Google alerts has shocked me like the stories of fisticuffs, shoving matches, assaults, and gunplay
10-footer
on the
here.
golf
This is makeable.
course. Incidents often brought on by slow play. Here's a small cross-section of true-life situations. In 2010, a 33-year-old Seattle area golfer was convicted of assault for hitting another golfer in the head with a 6-iron. The victim had been complaining about slow play on the golf course. The man wielding the 6-iron had been playing ahead of him. Near Dallas the same year, a golfer was arrested on charges that he chased and punched a golfer playing
1 under
behind
for the
him
round,
because the player hit a shot that
13
ricocheted
over for
off his
the
golf
tournament.
club. In England, also in 2010,
Okay, it's
a
time
golfer
to
was
send this
convicted of
ball on its
striking
way.
another golfer with an 8-iron because he thought the victim had hit his ball. In Connecticut, a woman playing with her husband sustained permanent damage to her right eye when she was struck with a golf ball thrown by a man playing behind her. The man had been complaining about the pace of play, and on the 18th hole he walked forward and flung his golf ball at the woman. The man's playing partner approached the woman's husband and, after a brief argument,
Now that was a
punched the
swing.
husband in the head. Admittedly, these are extreme cases, but they are not isolated events. Not only that, they are only the incidents that led to an arrest and made local news. Think of all the arguments, confrontations, and ugly moments that don't escalate, and thus go unreported. Talk to the staff at any pro shop, particularly at public courses, where the vast majority of American golf is played, and they will tell you it's common on busy weekends for someone to have a ride out to a distant hole to quell a budding disturbance. It's usually smoothed over, but the point is that people are getting a little riled up, and it is not always about slow play. Any number of things set people off. The stories are not much different from the ones you read about road rage, except that it is different. This is golf. It's a game. You stick a tee in the ground and an MMA bout breaks out. Isn't it hard enough to hit the ball? I suppose it's no laughing matter, but a little recognition of the absurdity of it all may be helpful. As golfers, we are often wearing ridiculously bright-colored shirts. On our feet are some of the goofiest-looking shoes this side of the circus. We're hitting a tiny ball with insanely crooked sticks, and this is the moment we choose to defend our manhood? How can this
All right,
setting ever
13-footer
lead
here.
to blows? It seems more ripe for a barbecue. The only way golf course confrontations could make sense is if there were grandstands by the holes and non-golfers regularly came by to heckle us for being dumb enough to play this game. Okay, I won't joke anymore. This is a real and growing problem. When my file on these confrontations became an inch thick, I called around and talked to some experts who offered explanations of the psychological and sociological origins of the rage. They also offered advice on how to prevent an incident, which might be beneficial
And
someday.
that takes you up to even par.
Here is a
14
summary
under
of
for the
golf
tournament.
rage observations, even if some are obvious.
Okay, here we go.
Golf is frustrating, making people a little touchy. Many municipal golf courses are overcrowded, which makes it easier to accidentally interfere with someone else. Many new golfers have not been schooled in golf etiquette and do not realize that the behavior codes were developed to avoid confrontations and accord respect to everyone on the course. They haven't read this book. Alcohol plays a role in many of the most violent golf rage incidents. While there is a lot of slow play, people often erroneously blame the group directly in front of them when the
Good stuff.
problem is frequently a
Okay,
group
looks like
3
we
holes
are
ahead.
about
The slow play,
225
in
yards
fact,
to the
could
pin.
be coming from anywhere. But the most commonly cited cause of golf course altercations is primal. It comes down to territory and ego. Joe Parent, the author of Zen Golf and Golf, the Art of the Mental Game, had this reaction. If someone hits into you while
Solid
you're standing
swing.
in the middle of the fairway, it's taken as a personal affront, since you were minding your own business. So you might say to yourself, I'm not backing down, and you yell something. The guy behind you is thinking, who's this guy? I'm not backing down either. Now it's a macho thing. It can escalate pretty quickly. People also look for scapegoats for their failures, and there are a lot of things that can go wrong on the course. So if someone on the adjacent hole yells during your backswing, you see him as the cause of your bad shot and you take that personally. You may feel compelled to tell him that he ruined your shot. In fact, you shouldn't take it so personally. It wasn't about you at all. That guy just likes
And with
to yell,
that,
and you got in the
will
way.
stay at even par. And
Greg
14 under
Steinberg,
for the
who
tournament.
wrote Mental Rules for Golf,
All
said
right,
that average
let's
golfers
let her
lack the
rip.
emotional control of top players. This leads to outbursts. Everyone sees Tiger Woods or some other pro get mad on the golf course, but do they notice how quickly Tiger or the other player comes back to a calmness that allows him to concentrate on the next shot? Steinberg said. Most golfers have a pre-shot routine, but need a post-shot routine
Nice.
too. If you hit a bad shot, give yourself a few seconds to figure out what happened. You need that release. But don't overanalyze it. Say to yourself, next shot, and move on with a clear mind. Parent, who is an instructor to many PGA Tour and LPGA Tour players, noted that in some European countries, golfers are required to get a golf license before they can play. He was not advocating such a policy, but licensing programs do ensure that new players know the basic good conduct rules
Great contact.
before
Nice
they play.
swing.
Junior golf programs in the United States, like the First Tee, do the same. Knowing the protocols outlined in this
Okay, we're
chapter
sitting
will
at
help you
around
avoid unintended
110 yards
miscues
to the
and
pin.
help you act like an experienced golfer who respects the movements of others on the golf course. As I've shown, it's not a lot of pomp and circumstance. It helps us all get around the golf course without annoying one another too much. A less noticed sideline of the golf rage topic is damage to the golf course that overly angry golfers cause. We've all seen them. Guys who bury a 5-iron in the tee box grass after a dribbled shot or deface the green after a poor putt.
Sweet.
I
All right,
tell
this
people
next
to
one's
be
for
a little
birdie.
more accepting of the vagaries of golf and look at the big picture. Parents said, what do you come out to the golf course for? To relax and have fun? Or to throw clubs? They want to play well, but they're missing the point. People think if they play better, they will enjoy it more. In reality, if they enjoy it more, they will play better. Now that's well said. Vacation golf. Okay, so you've studied hard to become a good golf partner. You understand why it is so important. You'll never jiggle coins in your pocket on the teeing ground. You don't make excuses or talk on your cell phone, and you've learned to play fast.
And that'll
You're a
keep
skilled
you at
connoisseur
even
of the
par.
recreational
Nice.
golf experience.
14
learning
under
as
for
you
the
go.
tournament.
You've been a good student. Are you ready for the
And
final
we
exam?
are teeing off on,
Because
what is
nothing
this?
will
This is,
test you like
this
a
is number
round
11.
of vacation golf. I'm not talking about buddy golf trips or beautiful sojourns to Ireland. I'm talking about slipping away by yourself for a round while at the beach, or at the lake, or while visiting the in-laws. I'm talking about how once a year you pull up to a course you have never seen, play with people you have never met, pay a lot of money to do it, and then find yourself 11 over par after 3 holes.
Great contact.
Try making something fun out of that day, especially with a 9 a.m. tee time, so that it's too early to start drinking. It can be done.
Okay, the
As a
ball is
longtime
sitting
sports
below your
writer,
feet. That's going to
I
tend
have
to
played a
push
lot of this
your shot a
vacation
little bit,
golf.
so keep that in mind.
Okay, I was out of town working, but most games are at night, so what else was I going to do during the day? Let me lead you on a typical day of vacation golf. You'll see the path and the lessons gained. In some ways, it's learning to be the ultimate golf partner. Let's start in the pro shop. where you arrive after 15 harried minutes spent looking for the tiny sign directing you to Creek Palms Desert Island Dunes Ranch Spa, Resort, or Golf Club. The woman behind the desk points through the window to the range and says, "You're playing with those two gentlemen." You look down and see two guys working on some
Nice,
kind of
on the
swing
green.
tip.
And
That
for the
involves
bird.
one of them being on his back so he can tee the ball in his mouth. As you watch for another minute, you notice that they haven't paid for range balls. Instead, they're walking 30 yards into the range, ducking shots as they go, to gather topped balls so they can bring them back to the practice tee. You've decided to warm up on the putting green, which turns out to be the slowest surface you have ever stepped foot on. It feels as if you're putting through a bowl of soup. On the first tee,
Yes,
you
yes, yes.
meet your playing partners, Andy and Bob.
Okay,
You propose a
1 under
friendly
for the
little
round.
betting game. What's your
And
handicap?
13 over for
you
the
ask.
tournament.
Andy pauses, always a bad sign.
Let's put this
Then
ball down
mumbles,
in the fairway.
Maybe about, I don't know, 18 or 19? Bob turns to Andy and says, "What do you think I am, a 25? After you state your handicap, both of theirs go up, 2 more strokes. You survive the first tee jitters and the fact that Bob almost hit you with his tee shot, even though you were standing even with the ball and to his right, and you end up with a par putt on the first green. Mindful of the practice surface, you give the ball a solid smack, and it rockets across the fastest green you've ever seen, rolling 30 yards back into the fairway. Jeez.
Pretty deep
Why'd
rough
you do
here.
that?
Not going to
Andy
sugarcoat it.
Everybody knows Creek Palms Desert Island Dunes Ranch has the fastest greens in the state. You settle down for a handful of holes, making a few pars. Andy and Bob are busy giving each other advice and uttering inane golf sayings like, "Trees are 90% air," as their shots ricochet through the woods. But at least they're playing quickly, and you've been pushing the group in front of you all day. Then, as you wait on the tee of a par 3, the group in front turns and waves for you to hit it to the green. Alas, it's one of the most feared and difficult
Looks
shots
like this may
in
be
golf.
in the deep stuff.
Hit into
Well,
the
I'm
group.
just glad to be
You've
out
been
of the
bugging,
deep stuff.
and
This is
do
good.
it on a
All
tricky
right,
par 3 as
we're
everyone
right around
watches and waits in
165
judgment.
yards out.
Neither Andy nor Bob can get his ball airborne, and you scull a line drive missile that nearly decapitates a woman in the foursome ahead of you, even though she is standing 20 yards from the green. Your shot crashes into her cart, bounces around for a while, and comes to rest spinning inside one of their drinks in a cup holder. "Look, a hole-in-one," you say with a forced smile when you reach their cart 30 seconds later, but no one is laughing. So what's the protocol? Do you pluck the ball out of the mint julep? You drop another ball, play out as fast as you can, and scamper in shame to the next tee. "Boy, I can't believe you almost killed the mayor's wife," Andy says. "Yeah," Bob adds, "and the police chief and his wife don't look too happy either." But you have reached the halfway house after 9 holes, and the food offerings are not the usual hot dogs or plastic-wrapped turkey sandwiches. They have
All right,
barbecue
12-footer here.
sandwiches and an interesting-looking pickled something or other that spurs your adventurous side. Hey, it's a vacation. And what do you know? It tastes good. You tee off again, and your drives start to soar down the fairway, 10 or 15 yards farther than usual. "That's the altitude," Andy says. "We're at 1,800 feet here, you know." "No, it's the humidity," Bob counters. "Hydrogen-dominated water molecules replace nitrogen and
Solid
oxygen in
stroke
the
there.
air, making
job.
it lighter and therefore producing less friction or drag on a moving object
now
like a golf
with
ball.
that,
It's
you're
the
going to
altitude,
stay at
Bob.
even par.
Lower atmospheric
So, yeah,
pressure
not
at higher
too bad.
elevation. Everybody
And
knows
14
heavy,
under
sticky
for the
air
tournament.
slows the ball down. It only feels heavy because the sweat evaporation cycle of the epidermis is slowed. The air is actually less dense. You start to feel intrigued by your new friends, especially since you keep winning holes as they keep stopping the cart person for refreshments. Andy and Bob are giving you tips about local hidden gem restaurants and telling charming, funny stories about the area. Or do they seem funny because you've stopped the beverage cart twice?
I can't hit all the fairways.
You're putting together some good shots now. You've even made 2 birdies. It's kind of fun playing with strangers instead of your usual partners, who know too well your weaknesses and golfing peccadillos. When you hit into a particularly deep bunker on the 16th hole, no one cackles to remind you how poor a sand player you are. With a clear head and the belief that this out-of-town sand understands you better, you get up and down for par. It's a beautiful day. The back nine is lush, and each sweeping view is new to your eye. There's wildlife by the ponds, not a cloud in the sky, and it's relaxing to saunter around, just waiting to see what's around the bend on each hole. You finish with the feeling
now
that
we
this
find
was time well
on
spent,
hole number 14.
and exchange phone numbers with Andy and Bob. Okay, so you get lost leaving Creek Palms Desert Island Dunes Ranch, but that doesn't bother you. You'll find your way. Discovering and embracing the unknown seems to be part of the day's message. Although as you drive you are haunted by a question, like an eternal, unanswerable quandary. Altitude or humidity? I
Solid
told you,
swing.
every golf partner sticks with you somehow. It is part of the shared experience. Golf in tandem is a better game, and a good golf partner becomes as valued as a trusty, favorite club. We all strive to be that trusty partner. It is like striving to be a good friend. And if you believe, as I do, that there is something to be learned from every golf round, the lesson of good partnership is a lesson of selflessness. It is an investment of self. Become a good partner and others will want to play with you again. There is an ultimate payout to that, besides invitations to play more often.
Oh, man.
You are creating good golf karma. And there is no doubt
Okay,
that
1 under
good
for the
karma
round. And
leads
13 over for
to
the
good
tournament.
golf.
Okay, it's time to send this ball on
Chapter
its way.
5. You are not alone out there. Golf can be humbling and will sometimes make you feel pretty lonely out there. That's why they put a big clubhouse behind the 18th hole. Byron Nelson. One guy split the seat of his pants on the first tee. Bill Hancock quietly mended the breach and stifled the embarrassment.
Looks like you'll
with
be in the
safety
short
pins
stuff
he
here.
always keeps handy. Another guy, a newlywed, lost his wedding band somewhere before the first tee. Hancock found it on the practice range. 2 women pulled Hancock aside near the first tee and asked to be grouped with decent golfers who did not talk loudly. Bill found the appropriate playing partners. In 2002, Bill Hancock retired as a lawyer and became a starter, the person who acts as a sort of traffic cop and gatekeeper on the first tee of a busy golf course. It is the starter who oversees the symbolic launching point to a day of golf and oversees, ultimately, who tees off and when. When Hancock went to work at the public Ballyowen Golf Club in northwestern New Jersey, he thought he knew what he was getting into. He had been, after all, a lifelong golfer. He was in for a surprise. It turns out Bill's new trade requires the skill of several professions: tailor, seer, therapist, matchmaker. The starter, or the caddy master, who can fill the same role at a private club, is very much like a concierge of golf, and as such can hold the key to a great day. Every golf course, or golf club, whether it is public or private, has a fleet of
Now that was a
professionals like
swing.
Hancock waiting to be of assistance. They are a golfer's best friend. Far too many
Nice.
golfers pay little
For the
attention to
birdie
these servants
here.
of the game, when there are clubhouse managers, locker room attendants, caddies, and starters who can demystify and resolve golf's various quandaries on the course and, sometimes more important, off of it. Getting ready to play golf makes a lot of people nervous and befuddled, Hancock said. There's a lot of running around and tension. I want people to be calm and enjoy the atmosphere. Sometimes I'll stand by the first tee and sing to everyone on the practice green. Ballyowen, a spectacular links-style layout with a Celtic theme, outfits its starters in kilts. Beside his starters hut overlooking the dunes and
And that'll
Wild
keep you at 1 under for the
Hancock
round.
sings a mean
And 13 over
Danny
for
boy.
the tournament.
People stop, take in the setting, and
Okay,
maybe say
here
to
we
themselves,
go.
hey, we're pretty lucky to be out here today, Hancock said. Every golfer should find an extra hour or two someday just to stand on the first tee of a golf course. You will learn a lot about golfers, about recreational golf, and about yourself. It will improve your play and your perspective on our golfing pastime. You will see how your arrival at the golf course can set the tone for everything to follow, and it will probably alter how you approach that experience.
No
After
good.
standing on the tee
Pretty
for a
deep
while,
stuff here.
you should then wander
give it a
around
good
the
hack.
grounds.
Let's put it
From
in
the
the right
pro shop
direction.
to the caddy shack. That is where you will find the true oracles of information about that golf course and about recreational golf in general. As a golf writer, it's been part of my job to take this tour of the grounds many times. Do you know what these golf lifers tell me over and over? That no one asks them any questions. No one seems to want to know the considerable number of things they know. We can help the golfers who come here with pretty much everything they need or want to know, said John Wesolowski, the longtime locker room attendant at the Ridgewood Country Club, the New Jersey setting for a PGA Tour event, regional competitions, and an active schedule of local membership golf, too. We've seen it all, and you can see that people have a lot of questions.
Here's a pro tip.
But most of them
Try
don't
staying
ask us.
out of the rough.
I don't
It'll
know
help,
why.
trust me.
It's likely that arriving golfers don't want to bother anyone, or they feel embarrassed or inhibited by the setting. But the fact is that most people who work at a golf course do so because they like being around golf. Talking to them about their job or workplace gives them another opportunity to talk about golf, and by asking questions you are flattering them, acknowledging that they can help you. Consider the starter, someone whom people often zoom past in their carts on the way to the first tee. The starter knows the course maintenance mowing schedule, and so knows the speed of the greens that day. You might want to ask about that. The starter also knows where the rough is likely to be highest. Another good thing to know. The starter knows where the pins are placed. The starter can recommend what tees to play from. The starter knows how much water or rain the greens have received and can tell you if they're soft or hard. Why in the world would anybody
And
overlook
that
someone
hole
like that?
puts you up to
But people
even
do
par.
it all the time.
And 14 under for the tournament.
People should realize that we are all
Coming
in this
off
together.
a bit of a
Hancock
bogey on
said.
that last hole.
The
Let's see if we can
golfers
do
and the
better
people
here.
who work at the golf course. We all want you to play your best. That's good for everybody. Good for the pace of play, good for everybody's mood, and good for business. People should know it's all of us together against the golf course. We'll do whatever it takes to help. There are other key people at the familiar points of entry to the
Looks
golfing
like this is a beauty.
experience. If you are a guest at a private club, for example, the first person you meet could be the locker room attendant, another pivotal friend in waiting.
Well, I can't
My
get it
first
right all the
advice
time.
in maximizing
Unlucky.
this relationship is to be early. A lot of people don't arrive early enough for their tee time to enjoy all the benefits of a club, says Rob Bucci, the caddy master at the Ardsley Country Club in Westchester County outside New York City. It's not a big deal, but we're here to take care of you. Come early, we'll make you comfortable and get you whatever you need. You can warm up and practice. If you rush in at the last minute, you're missing that chance. When invited to play in an outing at a
And a
private club,
fantastic chip
a
out
lot
of
of
that
people
rough.
worry
Good
about
job,
breaking
good job.
unspoken
1
protocols.
under for the round. And
It is
13
probably
over
not a
for
good
the
idea
tournament.
to show up in denim jeans with your baseball cap on backwards,
Yeah,
said
let's give this
Bucci,
ball a smash.
who is a past president of the National Caddy Masters Association. Cell phone use is something that should be avoided, but usually it's not anything that hard or fancy. If somebody is really worried about it, the best thing they can do is go to the caddy master and say, "Hey, I've never done this before. That's when we're at our best. Willie Logan, the locker room attendant
Solid
at the
swing.
Colorado Golf Club, once told me he thought the locker room existed for more than the obvious: a restroom, showers, and a place to change clothes and shoes. It was Logan's belief that the atmosphere
about
of the locker room,
185 yards
convivial
left
and
to
comfy,
go here.
where every need is within arm's reach, existed to shed any aura of anxiety about the approaching golf round. The locker room is a place of attitude adjustment. You walk through the door and leave behind the rest of the world. In the locker room, you have an adult version of a child's playroom, televisions tuned to sports, card tables, and friends talking about nothing more consequential than something called a birdie or a bogey. The place delivers a clear message. We are here to play a game. Now go out there and have fun. But what about the club etiquette in this sanctuary-like
Nice.
environment? Well, it's not quite like entering a secret society, even if people like to imagine that it is. Harry Potter had it much harder at Hogwarts. There are only a very few don'ts, and just a few places to be careful. For example, don't change your shoes in the parking lot. That's a no-no. Carry your golf shoes in a bag and change them in the locker room. If you have brought a travel bag for checking your golf clubs on the airlines, it likely came with a shoe bag that unzips from the travel case. That's a good shoe bag for visiting the country club. Any other Emily Post-like etiquette is fairly straightforward. Clubs sometimes have specific rules for the grill or the bar, such as prohibiting hats or caps. It's probably a good idea to remove your
par
hat
to end things out.
unless you are on the
Okay,
golf course
I am.
or in the locker
I'm going
room.
to head on over to the clubhouse. We'll see you
In
next time.
general, during your visit,